What's up, everybody? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, talking some football with my good buddy, Andy Herman of the Pack-A-Day podcast. Andy, and then suddenly it was the offseason. Obviously, the Packers dropping a heartbreaker to the 49ers. A lot to cover here. Let's start with the headline, I think, which is not special teams, even though we'll get to it, lack of competence, etc. It's Aaron Rodgers, because let's face it, that's going to be the storyline all offseason. His play in this game, absolutely brutal overall. What did you see when you looked at the tape? What was your takeaway, both from Rodgers' play and offensively for the Packers?
Yeah, frustrating, especially after those first two drives started so well. You have the touchdown drive, which looked like the Packers offense. The second drive goes all the way down, and then you had the Mercedes fumble, and then just everything seemed to not click and fall apart from there. I think the frustrating thing is you go back and watch the tape is that for the most part, not on every play, but for the most part, there were answers that were out there on almost every play. And Rodgers and the offense just couldn't find them. And sometimes that was DeGuara dropping a ball over the middle. Sometimes that was Rodgers not seeing a guy. And that was just sort of the story of the game. And it was interesting. As I went back and watched it, there were even plays early in the game where Rodgers was hitting checkdowns, where there were players breaking out, open in various levels of the field that he just wasn't seeing. And sometimes that happens. But it was almost like everything was just the opposite of what it should have been on most plays. There were times where he was hitting checkdowns when he had opportunities to hit downfield. When there weren't opportunities to, hit downfield and he needed to hit his checkdowns, he was keeping his eyes downfield. There were times where early in the game, before the 49ers pressure had really ramped up, he had already started to get a little bit of happy feet in the pocket, drop his eyes a little bit, not keep his eyes downfield. It was just it was a very uneven and completely surprising performance from the back-to-back probably MVP of the league, who had a tremendous season, was in great rhythm as the season went on. And it was, I think the most bizarre thing of it was that it really seemed like towards the end of the year, Rodgers himself almost made a concerted effort to make sure that Lazard and the rest of these receivers were sort of getting up to speed, so that come playoff time, he knew Davante was going to be doubled. We talked about it on numerous occasions. Come playoff time, teams were not going to let Davante beat them. The 49ers did everything they could to take Davante out, specifically in big game or big situations. And Rodgers at times almost refused to look other places. And DeGuara was a huge piece where he was the answer on numerous times, and just Rodgers didn't look in that direction at all.
And it's two things that you mentioned there. Actually, one that you mentioned and one I'd like to kind of throw your way and see what you think. Number one, the dropping the eyes and looking at the rush is something that has happened against this 49ers front on multiple occasions, multiple playoff games and regular season games. It was surprising how quickly that happened to me.
Agreed.
Because, as you say, they came out gangbusters. The plan seemed to be working. The fumble by Mercedes clearly changed momentum, not only for the game, but seemingly on offense. Suddenly, all this, they just could not find a groove after that happened. And to me, a major component was Rodgers dropping his eyes. He seemed to your point, there were solutions on a number of plays, but not only did he not get to them, it just seemed like, not instantly, but as the game wore on, quicker and quicker, it seemed like his eyes did seem to drop towards the rush, and then he was instantly looking for an escape route. And this circles back to something we discussed earlier in the year. It's frustrating how the bum toe, coming off of that missed week with COVID, and then he had the injury to his toe, seemed to force him to play within the structure of the offense, seemed to force him to stick in the pocket. And you saw all of the old bad habits for Aaron Rodgers resurface on Saturday night in regards to not only looking at the rush, but then trying to find escape routes with his legs rather than solutions with his arm within the structure of the offense.
It's a weird dynamic in the fact that when Rodgers has been at his absolute best at times is when he's not been mobile. Whether it's been coming back from the Bears injury, where it didn't look like he was going to come back, comes back at halftime, can't move in the pocket, and just tears apart the Bears defense from there on out. When he didn't have the mobility with his toe this year, when he doesn't have that mobility and he just has to trust the system and his players to do the heavy lifting, and he acts as the point guard of the offense and just distributing the ball, generally that's when he's been at his best. And also For a while, I sort of fought this, and to an extent, I might still fight this. I want to be very clear. I do not think that this offense is better without Devontae Adams. In no way, shape, or form do I even want to put that out there. But he seems to play better when he has everyone at his disposal and he views everything with a wide open lens of what's the best avenue on this play, not just getting it to Devontae, which in a lot of cases is the best avenue on a play, but not predetermining that, which of course was a major issue in this game as well.
Looking at the game plan as a whole, it's interesting because it looked like they wanted to run the football and were unable to. What was surprising to me, now I figured that it would be tough sledding.
Yep.
But it's frustrating to me because they had some success early getting outside, whether it's a traditional zone run. You saw the pitch to Aaron Jones, getting him in space, ripping off a really nice gain there. But then it seemed to fall down to, okay, we're just going to try and bang through the A gap. We're just going to try and do some ISO, some lead zone, whatever, just trying to probe the middle of the field. It seemed like they totally got away from trying to attack the edges. I understand A.J. Dillon going down undoubtedly affected things in the second half, but even prior to that, I was surprised at the lack of kind of imagination and a lack of, different types of running plays rather than just simple dive plays over and over again.
I totally agree. And I think there almost seems to be like different versions of this Matt LaFleur offense at times. We see times where they go double running backs, that we see times where they go a lot of motion and fake jet sweeps. And we see like different versions. And every once in a while, like they just sort of go away from some of that stuff. We didn't see much of the double running backs. Now, some of that may have been, again, due to A.J. Dillon in the second half. Maybe that was something they wanted to get to in the second half, and they just didn't because Dillon was out. We didn't see a ton of motion, whether it was, using a Randall Cobb, or we saw the one play to EQ where they got him out on the reverse, but not a ton of fake pitches, fake handoffs, not a lot of eye candy. It just seemed like there were other options out there that were more creative and could have potentially given San Francisco some more things to think about than what they ultimately ran. It just seemed very vanilla, what they were doing on offense. And again, it was such a strange thing. And it wasn't like they didn't have different drives and different opportunities to try different things. The 49ers were 3-and-out on so many different series. They had opportunities.
They had ample opportunity.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So to not have any of that creativity and to not do some of that stuff, give the 49ers credit for what they did defensively, but it seemed like a very bizarre game plan overall.
And I'm just throwing this out there. I do wonder if they were holding things back because they expected to win this game, get to the NFC Championship, and then maybe start, throwing out new looks on scouted stuff. But I agree with you. It was bizarrely vanilla.
Yeah.
You got 2 games to get to the Super Bowl. Let's go. Let's open things up.
And just on that for a second, yeah. I think there will be a point where maybe one of Aaron Rodgers' biggest regrets is not exactly that, is not just attacking with the full force of his ability. Like, I think there's a time and a place to be risk averse. And I think the playoffs is obviously a key place for that to be. But at some point, if you are the best thrower on the planet, go out and annihilate people. And we saw that with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes in perfect fashion in the Sunday game. And I get the conditions were not ideal.
Very different conditions, no doubt.
San Francisco's defense played very, very well. But at some point, I think when he looks back at the course of his career and some of these games that he's had the opportunities to maybe just go out and insert his will on other people and maybe not play quite as, passive or risk averse, whatever, I think there likely will be some regret in regards to that.
It's interesting too, because, and obviously we're taking a long time on Rodgers here because he is the straw that stirs the drink, and who knows what the future may hold. But to me, we've talked about him playing in structure. It's so frustrating to watch that play to Aaron Jones at the end of the first half, because that's the glimpse, and that's what gives him the idea that I can still do this, right? That's a classic Aaron Rodgers play, escaping out the pocket, big play up the sideline. Obviously, Aaron Jones has the brain fart there. Either should have scored and or at least run down the sideline to get knocked out of bounds, so they save the timeout. Either way, that's an amazing play. The problem is it is very much the exception to the rule, but it seems to tantalize Aaron to the point of, I can still do this. Look, there's a major, like, that's a huge play. The problem is that you used to get that 4 or 5 times a game. Now you're lucky if you get it once. And the flip side is you get caught by Joey Bosa from the back and suffer a sack. And that's more often the rule now rather than the exception. So Father Time is undefeated, and he's certainly knocking on the door for Aaron Rodgers. If he remains in Green Bay, we don't know what the future holds. Obviously, that's a major component of this offseason. If he remains in Green Bay, he has got to lean into the structure of the offense more so than anything else.
He does, and we've certainly been talking about that for a while. But I think that the thing that's frustrating is on that specific play to Aaron Jones, that's the situation where I want him to potentially ad lib and make a play. It's a third down situation late in the half. You need to pick up a first down. If your initial read's not there and you're not, you don't see what you like in that situation, go out and go make a play. Like that's the opportunity to sort of go be Superman. Third down situations, key third downs in the game, late in the game. If you're down a score or 2 scores and you need to come back, like go be Superman in the situation. But if he can play within the structure of the offense, and as we talked about earlier, be the distributor, be the point guard, we've seen over the last 3 years, especially under Matt LaFleur, that's when this offense as a whole has been at its best.
Let's switch it around to the defensive side of the ball. Clearly an outstanding performance across the board for the most part. To me, really powered by 2 people, Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, absolutely out of their minds in this game. I think Rashawn had one of his finest games. I don't think it was perfect by any stretch, but man, you talk about some young, exciting talent. Think about that. I mean, these guys are still very young, and they are dominating a playoff game. I know the future is whatever it is with Aaron Rodgers, but I tell you what, if you're a Packers fan, you look at that game, you look at some of the performances throughout this season, first year in this system under Joe Barry, man, the future is bright on defense in Green Bay.
Yeah, you look at probably 25 and under, and Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Eric Stokes, Jair Alexander. That is a heck of a way
to start
a building block. I mean, 2 potentially really great corners to really anchor your secondary for years to come. A run stuffing plus pass rushing stud of a defensive tackle that is literally what everything on your defense revolves around. And then a top tier pass rusher who's literally starting to bring it to the highest of possible levels. I mean, man, you can't ask for much more than that for 4 building blocks at or under the age of 25. So listen, it's going to get a little bit crazy in Green Bay, but Brian Gutekunst knows how to identify talent. I mean, finding guys like Rasul Douglas, Eric Stokes this year, Devondre Campbell, like this is a front office and a staff that knows how to find talent. And when you have core building blocks like that, I think there's always hope that maybe even if they have to go the route of a rebuild or a retooling or whatever you want to call it, that
we don't rebuild in Green Bay, baby. We just reload.
That's true. Very true. Well said.
I'm making it
but that maybe it doesn't have to take quite as long as it does in other places because of some of these key pieces moving forward.
No doubt about it. It was great to see Jair Alexander get some snaps. Obviously, it was great to see Z get a sack in what is probably his last game in a Packers uniform. Overall, it's crazy. Just going back and watching it again, I thought that Kyle Shanahan would have a very good plan coming in. And look, you look at the Dallas game and how they marched right down the field. They marched up and down the field pretty much all game. Clearly, Jimmy G is who he is, and he's going to give you a couple, and he did for the Packers on Saturday night. But, man, Joe Barry, his plan coming into this game, he seemed to be a step ahead of Kyle Shanahan for the opening kind of Slavo, the idea of, I know how you're going to attack us. Because all week we heard the powerful running game, the physicality of the 49ers. The Packers seemed absolutely ready for anything and everything thrown at them. And that is just, to me, a big, big testament to Joe Barry and his effectiveness, knowing his personnel and knowing how to utilize them.
Yeah, it really seems like Matt LaFleur got that hire right. I think, Barry was well prepared for one of the best offensive minds in football. I thought the defense was incredibly disciplined. I thought a perfect example of that is late in the game. I think it was before the play where Debo picked up the big first down at the end. But before that, he cuts back and Preston Smith's just waiting
right there.
for him.
Yep.
And it's just like a beautiful example of like, even in this key moment where it's so easy to get like, just want to go and rush and make a play.
Go make a play. Right.
Debo, it cuts back and Preston's just like, no way. This is my job. I'm sitting, waiting here for you, waiting for this cutback. And now you're mine. And, I thought that was a great testament to exactly how that defense played throughout the entirety of the game. And how about that freaking dime defense? Because listen, we've talked about in the past,
and without Savage for a good stretch,
portion of it too, right?
But
nuts. Like we've talked in the past of like, you have to eat your vegetables on early downs in order to set up those situations. And they did, they deserve more credit probably for doing that. But when the dime defense got on the field, it was game over. Like Jair Alexander in the slot with Stokes and Douglas on the outside.
And being physical in the slot. I mean, that's something we've been screaming for all year, and we finally got to see a lot of it on Saturday night.
And then, Campbell and then Z and Clark on the inside with Preston and Gary on the outside and mix and matching those guys. And it was gorgeous. And San Francisco had no answer for it. The dime defense was so fun. And I just wish we could have got to see more of that moving forward, because
I know
that was a special group to put together all in the field at the same time.
Funny you say special group, because now it's time to talk about something that wasn't so special on Saturday night. And that is, of course, special teams. Whoo, baby. So, Andy, we talked about it all year. I mean, we literally started the season talking about how all they needed to be was competent. That's it. And it's been our theme all year long. Even last week, we talked about how just give us competent play, don't hurt us. And that's exactly what special teams did. Not only the block kick, not only giving up huge returns, but then, of course, the blocked punt, where they essentially put a big man in the middle on our long snapper who got no help, and he basically pushed him into the backfield like he was a father playing with his young son in the backyard, and said, "Yeah, I'm gonna go take that. Thanks." I mean, it was a complete breakdown on every single level of special teams. It kind of boggles the mind, especially. You go to that last play, do or die, season on the line. The only hope you have is to block this kick, and you have 10 guys out there. I just hope Mo Drayton is renting. That's all I know.
Yeah. I think if you want to wrap up the season in one photo, it's 10 guys rushing the kicker on the last play of the game. Like,
good Lord.
The level of pure embarrassing incompetence that the special team showed is astounding. And you had a year plus, like this has been an issue for decades, like almost decades. Right. But you've had all year. This didn't come out of nowhere. This didn't come out of left field of like, man, we were great at this all year, and we just picked our, the worst day,
the worst time
ever to be bad on special teams. This has been a major. You had 2 weeks to prepare. You could, whether that's putting starters in positions that need to be on special teams, whatever you need to do to get that right. To not be able to line up, to not be able to block some of the simplest concepts, to allow a field goal block, to not being able to cover kicks. Like, you can argue, of course, 7 points off the punt, right? Then you've got 3 points off the blocked field goal, which, by the way, Bojorquez makes one of the best plays of the game to have the reaction time to quickly grab that ball and get down, or San Francisco's got another 7 going the other way.
They're going the other way. No question about it.
But then to the 47-yarder, 45-yarder by Debo sets them up at midfield on their first field goal drive of the game, getting their first points of the game. That 3 is on the special. That's not on the defense. That 3 points, in my opinion, is on the special teams. That's 3 on the return. That's 3 on the block kick. That's 7 on the touchdown. That's 13 points in a 3-point loss. And then, oh, by the way, before you punt off, punt on the key punt before the end of the game, false start on that play. Again, not lining up with 10 guys. And this is, we can talk about Mo Drayton, who I will eat a jar of mayonnaise live on here if Mo Drayton is back next season, which is the worst thing in the world. I will be beyond shocked, and I don't wish anyone's demise or
right.
Whatever.
No, of course not. You're not rooting for guys to get fired. I
wish they all got Hall of Fame jackets. Every single person who ever donned green and gold, I wish they did. But it's not just on Mo Drayton. All that being said, like, this is systemic from how you build a team, You know, I don't know if Ron Wolf missed a chapter in the Green Bay way that he needed to talk more about special
We need
teams
an appendices. Yes,
pass
of
that
course.
down to
Right.
to Thompson and Gutekunst, et cetera, because it has been clearly an afterthought on how they build this team. In what special teams, because those last spots on the roster are players that they have drafted and are developing, or undrafted free agents and developing, that are developing to be future, hopefully stars or starters on this team, not who can go out and play key roles on special teams.
I know it's so funny though, because then all we hear all summer, right? Every summer, you and I talk about it every week during training camp. It's like your key to making the team is to ball out on special teams, is to contribute on special teams. Yet they find guys who I guess look like they can, but then for whatever reason throughout the season, they just do not in any way, shape, or form.
And I don't know, I don't know what you do with that. I don't have any faith that a new coordinator or I don't know. It's been an issue for so, as great as 30 years of quarterback play has been, the special teams has been the exact balancing that, the yin and yang of greatness and terribleness in Green Bay.
I tell you what, it all started. You talk about Ron Wolf. It all started when you didn't want to pay Desmond Howard and you didn't want to pay Craig Hentrich. You gotta pony up if you want to, stay good on special teams. Forget competent. You can be good on special teams. You got to pay your specialists, which is crazy when you think about the fact that Mason Crosby got paid and he probably played his last game in Green Bay. I don't know. Everyone's talking about Aaron Rodgers, but it's probably Mason's last game in a Packers uniform.
To Brian's semi-defense, he paid Crosby a huge deal. He spent a draft pick on a punter, a draft pick on a punter,
no doubt about it.
He went out and tried these things. It didn't work.
It is interesting, though, that he tried on the long snapping front, but did he need to? I mean, I don't see how he had much, if any, of kind of an upgrade when he made the switch. That mid-season switch always felt weird. It's not like Hunter Bradley was any different this year than he had been his entire career in Green Bay, yet Brian felt the need to switch when he did for whatever reason. I just have no idea. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, Hunter Bradley would have made that block. He probably gets pushed back as well by this humongous mountain of a man. I'm not saying that, but that was always weird to me, the timing there. I didn't really understand that.
Yeah. I think, Hunter Bradley was probably bad, but Stephen Wordle was probably worse. And that's not a movie you want to make.
I pretty much agree. Well, as you can see, I'm wearing my Brewers hat. It's the off season, ladies and gentlemen. Go Brewers. I don't know when pitchers and catchers report, but it can't get here soon enough. Andy, it's been phenomenal talking football with you all off season, obviously, or all season. Obviously, we will continue to talk throughout the off season when, when the mood strikes, when it's time, when there are things to talk about. But in the meantime, thank you so much for hanging out with me pretty much after every single game this year. Always appreciate your time and your candor and your insights, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Love doing these each week. Enjoy your favorite time of year, draft season. I know you're all in,
baby.
So enjoy the heck out of it, and happy to chat anytime.
Can't wait. Thanks so much, Andy.
You bet.